Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Now we want to see together what is considered one of the most important protection functions that are applied to all power stations. Okay, at the beginning, as we are used to, the first thing we will do is open, and then we will see which family our relay belongs to. My relay belongs to a certain family. I will open and select add mine and start looking for circuit breaker failure function. Circuit breaker failure function. Okay, the topic is quite simple, as we know. I now have a very large group of, among them, I can say this to understand it very simply. It's a matter of talking about a feeder. So it is related to the feeder, meaning faults on the feeder like overcurrent, earth fault. What is this? And there are other functions related to the circuit breaker itself, like how to assume now that I have a feeder, and this feeder is supplied through two circuit breakers. For example, like when I have a bus bar arrangement, such as a ring bus, double breaker, or 1.5 breaker scheme. Okay, in this case I have two breakers invading my feeder, so now I have a possibility of a breaker failure on one of the breakers and not on the two breakers, right? So this function definitely, when I search for it here, I will find it under a function group called circuit breaker. So once it is opened, it falls under circuit breaker. We should find something here called circuit breaker failure. Circuit breaker failure, right? So what should I do here? What? I start to select and begin to implement it. So when I come to place it, where should I place it? Should I place it within the main function group? Should it be part of the existing one? Or should I place it under the function group? So, of course, I added it, as you can see here. Or should it be part of the circuit breaker? So, of course, I added it, as you can see. Very good. Let's take a look at our settings. Quite simply, the first thing it tells me is whether the mode is on, off, or test. Of course, I will set it to on. Okay. The function now as a circuit breaker failure can be initiated either internally or externally. This applies to all types of protection relays. So, how do I initiate it internally and how do I initiate it externally? Well, if I want to initiate it internally, initially you start by adding all the protection functions you have on the feeder, whether it's overcurrent, earth fault, under or over voltage, whatever the protection function is. After you start adding all of these, you then go to something called open, where you will begin to see all the protection functions you have added here, present with everything inside them. All right, great. Okay, and in front of them there is a set of columns. So we have rows, and these rows are essentially what's inside them. And here I have a set of columns. What are these columns? They are a set of protections that fall under what is called. So, there are some functions that I place only under the circuit breaker, not under the general protection functions for the feeder. Like what? Like, for example, the breaker failure. And of course, I will also talk to you later in the upcoming videos about the auto recloser and sync. All right? Very good. So I will notice here that there's circuit breaker 1, and it will start listing all the functions you have placed under circuit breaker 1. So, who is among them? Among them is the breaker fail. In case you want to activate the internal initiation, you will just start mapping or routing the stages you want to initiate. For whom? For the circuit breaker failure. This way, you have done something called internal initiation. The initiation. Great. So the applications that we have in the power stations at the Saudi Electricity Company, Aramco, or others, we use. In this case, I won't do anything here, and I will start closing this page and open the one that is mine. Of course, I have all the internal signals, or everything available in the relay is accessible here. I start by going either to the function group of the feeder or the function group of the circuit breaker. I will open the function group of the circuit breaker and go to the circuit breaker failure. I will start to notice here that I have a set of virtual inputs and outputs related to the circuit breaker failure. So, what do I want from them now? I want to create an external initiation, so I go here to the start signal and begin routing it with one of the binary inputs based on my scheme. This way, I have created an external initiation for the circuit breaker failure. External initiation. for circuit breaker failure. Excellent. So the first thing I did is the concept of initiation. Whether it was, or we knew both methods, then it comes here and tells you. And well, initially, since we are not working with this option, won't matter to me whether they did it or they did it. But what does it mean if I did it? Signal star, signal I do it for him, it means yes, I do it for him, it means yes. Okay, as we are used to, we will go and open our manual. You need to know how to get the information from the manual, how to navigate it, and reach any information you want. So I will write here, for example, failure to see where the function is. Here it is, circuit breaker failure. I got the beginning of the function. Okay, I will also start looking here at holding external start signal. When you take this entire term, you write it down or take some keywords from it and start putting them. So I will write here holding. And I will see where this word holding is or where it will take me. Here I have holding internal star signal. No, let's continue until we reach the external. Very good. Here is holding to the external star signal. Beautiful. Okay. It tells you that you have no or yes. What does it mean? It says, well, if you set it to no, it means circuit breaker failure. Protection drops out when the external star signal has a falling edge. And Siemens recommends that you use this setting as default. From conducting a signal to identify the motor when an open motor is launched in the open area and the targeted motor is continuous or compensating. And Siemens recommends that you use this setting as default. While yes means you can hold the start signal if the circuit breaker isn't confirmed open when the external start signal falls. What does this mean? Let's discuss the external start. You received a binary input from 94 from the lockout relay. This input is the start signal for the breaker failure. Now you have two ways. From 94 from the lockout relay, whatever. Did you start telling me now about the lockout? Okay, lockout, I don't know what's wrong with it. Forget it. Assume there's an input that came to you. This is the one for the... Okay, now you have a way. The first path tells you what when it comes to you. It's supposed that as soon as it passes, or let's say for example, but we don't have, for example, let's assume the time of stage 1 or the timer of stage 2. Let's say for example stage 2, but we don't have for example stage 1. Let's assume stage 2. He said to you, did you say external initiation? And the time passed, and at the end of this time he asked himself whether the breaker opened or not. The question here is if the initiation came and disconnected before the time ended. In this case, if there was a current present or the breaker did not open, can the breaker operate or not? This is the idea. If you set it to no, it means if a binary input came and disappeared before the retrip time or the backup trip time elapsed, in this case, it will reset as if nothing happened. But if you set it to yes, it means that as soon as it receives the positive edge of the start signal, even if this start signal disappears, it will continue to maintain it as if it is still present. Consequently, it will count down its timer normally, and at the end of this time, it will check if the breaker is open or closed and take action accordingly. All right, so now I have it set up, and you might start asking me, well, Rashad, how is this coming to you? Is it coming to you through this or that? In any case, it won't make a difference because it won't affect anything for you. But if it's 94, in this case, what do we want to happen? Well, he's telling you, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid it might come to me by mistake and then get activated. So it's better to set it up. As for us at the stations, what do? We might set it up according to the situation, but we understand the purpose of it sitting or the purpose of it.